All right, let's jump straight into this Code Ninja security advisory. We're looking at CVE 2026-42945. I'm issuing this alert because we're dealing with a massive 18-year-old vulnerability in the NGINX web server. People are already calling it the NGINX Rift. Now, as a white hat researcher, my main objective today is simple: give you the exact, immediate technical intelligence you need to either mitigate this threat or force a vendor patch across your perimeter. NGINX literally runs about a third of the internet's websites, so yeah, this is an absolutely critical exposure for our community. The timeline of this discovery shows exactly why we practice coordinated vulnerability disclosure. We do this to force a vendor patch before opportunistic threat actors can weaponize the exploit. This logic error was actually introduced into the NGINX rewrite module way back in 2008. It just sat there, totally dormant, until April 21st, 2026, when an AI security analysis system by Depth First finally flagged it. By mid-May, coordinated patches and a public proof of concept were out. So the race between defenders and threat actors is officially on.
The CVSS score for this is a critical 9.2. What we're dealing with is an unauthenticated memory corruption flaw in the NGX_HTTP_rewrite module. Now keep in mind, this is a data plane vulnerability. There's no control plane exposure here, but because it requires absolutely zero authentication to exploit, it demands immediate mitigation from literally anyone running an affected edge server.
Phase 2, communication link check.
Okay, I need you to execute this comms check right now. Step 1, subscribe to @cybertech79 and turn on notifications so you get this real-time threat intel. Consider this a core security necessity. When 0 days drop, this channel is your early warning system. Step 2, drop a like on this explainer as a formal acknowledgement, an ACK, that you've received this intelligence. Got it? Okay, proceed to Step 3.
Step 3 is our census. I need you to comment your status below right now. Are you patched or vulnerable? We really need to accurately map the blast radius across our Defender community. Seeing your status helps us figure out how fast this mitigation is actually rolling out in the wild.
Phase 3, threat landscape and impact. So the flaw itself is definitively a heap buffer overflow right inside the NGINX worker process. And yes, it's triggerable remotely using specially crafted HTTP requests, basically by feeding the server a highly specific payload. We're talking, in one proof of concept, just a few hundred padding bytes followed by a string of URI escapable characters. The attacker forces the system to write data straight past its allocated memory buffer.
Now, it's absolutely crucial that you understand your realistic threat outcomes here. While remote code execution is technically possible, especially if address space layout randomization or ASLR is disabled on your host, reliably weaponizing that on modern hardened systems is incredibly complex. But the immediate, highly reliable, and honestly super dangerous threat, that's an unauthenticated denial of service.
And this quote from Orca Security's proof of concept testing perfectly illustrates that DOS threat in action. They noted just 3 exploit requests successfully killed multiple NGINX workers simultaneously. Think about that. An attacker doesn't even need a remote shell to cause severe business impact. They can just maintain complete service disruption by crashing worker processes way faster than the NGINX master process can possibly respawn them. This triggers fatal SIG-ABR errors and just drops all client traffic.
Phase 4, root cause and exposure.
The root cause here is what we call a script engine state mismatch. See, the NGINX rewrite engine uses a 2-pass process. First, it calculates the required memory buffer size, and then it copies the data in. The vulnerability happens because an internal flag called is_args triggers a complete desynchronization between these 2 passes during data processing.
Let's look at exactly how this mechanism breaks down. During the first pass, the length calculation sees the isargs flag as 0, so it allocates a buffer based on the raw capture length. Simple enough, right? But then, during the copy phase, the main engine suddenly sees the flag as 1, assuming it's now dealing with query string arguments. Because of this mismatch, single bytes from the attacker's URI, like a plus sign or an ampersand, suddenly expand into 3-byte escaped sequences. The data outgrows that undersized allocation we just made, overflows the heap, and corrupts adjacent memory.
So who's actually in the blast radius?
Well, if you're running NGINX open source version 0.6.27 through 1.30.0 or NGINX Plus versions R32 through R36, you are potentially exposed. And remember, this heavily impacts dependent products too, like the NGINX Ingress controller for Kubernetes, F5 web application firewalls, and NGINX Gateway Fabric. You absolutely must upgrade to the patched releases to clear out that vulnerable binary code.
But there is a really critical nuance here. Just running a vulnerable version isn't enough to get exploited. You also have to be running a highly specific configuration pattern on your edge infrastructure. A rewrite directive has to use an unnamed regex capture like $1. Then its replacement string has to contain a question mark. And crucially, it has to be followed by another rewrite, if or set directive within that exact same context. So if you're using PHP front controllers or API gateway routing, you very likely have this exact pattern.
Phase 5. Immediate mitigation protocol. Your absolute primary directive is to upgrade the binary. But look, if deployment pipelines mean you can't immediately apply the patch, you have to neutralize the code path at the configuration level. You do this by swapping out unnamed captures for named captures in your rewrite rules. It's a simple shift. Going from an unnamed capture like $1 to a named variable like user ID entirely bypasses that buggy unnamed capture logic in the NGINX script engine, completely neutralizing the exploit.
I want you to execute this safe triage workflow to hunt for the vulnerability. And I cannot stress this enough. Do not recklessly fire public proof of concept exploits against your production systems just to see if you're vulnerable. You will literally cause an outage. Instead, safely audit your running binaries. Use the nginx-t command to dump and inspect your fully compiled config for those vulnerable regex patterns. And keep a close eye on your error logs for sudden bursts of 502 bad gateway errors or SIGOPT Orker terminations. That's your tell. Now, when you do roll out the patch, pay close attention to this operational detail. Applying the binary patch requires a full restart of the NGINX service to actually load the new binary into the worker processes. A simple configuration reload is not going to cut it. If your package manager updates the binary, but those old workers are still sitting there serving traffic, you are still 100% vulnerable to the Rift.
Phase 6. Ethics and sign-off.
Why do we practice aggressive, coordinated vulnerability disclosure? Because security through obscurity always fails. The proof of concept is already out there, public on GitHub. Ultimately, users need to know exactly how these exploits work at a granular level so they can lock down their systems before opportunistic threat actors and automated botnets hit the perimeter. Your action items today are crystal clear. Upgrade to the patched NGINX releases, safely audit your rewrite rules for those unnamed captures, restart your worker processes, and stay secure.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty urgent question regarding the rest of your tech stack. If a critical 18-year-old memory corruption bug can just hide in plain sight inside one of the world's most scrutinized open source projects, what hidden legacy vulnerabilities are sleeping in your infrastructure right now, just waiting for an AI scanner to wake them up? Think about it. See you in the next explainer.